What if Darth Vader turned back to the light before confronting Palpatine with Luke? That's our story for today. Hope you guys enjoy, and let's get right into this one. Our story begins on Dagobah, as Luke Skywalker is saying goodbye to Master Yoda. The old Jedi has lived over 900 years, trained generations of Jedi, seen their rise, and been their leader as they fell. And now Yoda died as he told Luke the truth about his father and about his sister. Luke now knew for certain that Vader is his father, and he is not the last Skywalker. But as Yoda died, he used an old, ancient trick, draining the last of his power before moving to the Force Netherworld. Yoda manifested a Force memory, sending it across the galaxy to the man once known as Anakin Skywalker. On the command ship for the Imperial fleet near the Death Star, Darth Vader was in his meditation, surrounded by the dark side of the Force. He was trying to search the future, something his master was so amazing at, and something Anakin was able to do much more than Vader. And as Vader was deep in meditation, an echoing voice called to him. A woman's voice that simply said, "Anakin." And Vader's eyes jolted open. He knew that voice, a voice that he hadn't heard since Mustafar. Padme. Vader shook his head. The Force was playing tricks on him. But the voice came again, and it said, "Anakin, let me in." Vader gasped and looked around, opening his chamber to see his wife, Padme Amidala. She stood in the room as if she were still here, still alive, and she wore the same outfit that she wore the day that she told Anakin she was pregnant. That was the happiest moment of his life, the moment before it all fell apart. Silence hung in the air for a long moment until she smiled, then told Anakin she misses him. Vader told her that Anakin is dead, and Padme moved closer, saying, "No, Darth Vader is dead. My husband is alive, and he's been alive since the day he learned about Luke." Anakin knew she was right. When Vader learned that Luke was alive, a spark of Skywalker woke up within him, but he hid it away, pretended it wasn't there. Vader pushed through his emotions, telling Padme she was only a memory. But she put her hands on Vader's mask, removing it and saying, "I'm your memory, and our son needs you." Vader, through tears, told her that she is gone, and she said, "Yes, I am. But what I stood for, what I fought for, that's not gone." And then she told Vader she has to go, but she has always been with him and will always be with him. And now it's time for him to come back, be with their son. And she faded away, with Yoda, Obi-Wan, and Qui-Gon feeling the sudden shift in the light side of the Force from Anakin. Many hours later, Luke Skywalker stood on the bridges of the Endor Ewok camp with Leia. Luke was going to find and confront his father, but first he was asking Leia about her mother, what she remembered, and then he was telling Leia the truth. Darth Vader is his father, and he has a sister. Leia slowly put the pieces together, and asked Luke why he must confront Vader. And Luke said that he senses good in Vader, and he has to try to turn him back to the light. He must try to save him. And suddenly, from the trees below, a robotic voice said, "You already have Luke." And the Skywalker children both turned as Leia pulled out her blaster. It was Vader, and she wanted to kill Vader. She hated him for what he did to Alderaan, and even if he was her real father, he would never be Bail Organa. But Luke grabbed her pistol and asked her to follow him. She asked if this was a trap, and Luke said that if it is a trap, then they're already dead. And so Leia reluctantly followed Luke down the winding staircase. Han Solo emerged to try and find them, but saw nothing, and so he turned back, looking elsewhere. In the trees, Luke and Leia saw the buttons on Vader's chest. They heard his breathing as they approached, and Vader looked to both of them, seeing Padme and Anakin in how they walked, in the looks on their faces, in their eyes, and Vader knew he made the right choice coming here. After having the memory of Padme, Vader felt Luke enter the moon, so he went to the Emperor and was tasked with going to the moon to wait for Luke. Sidious didn't sense Vader's turn, as Vader had learned to hide any light side feelings from Sidious over the years. And Vader came to find Luke instead of waiting for him. Luke greeted him by saying, "Hello, Father," and Vader was glad to see Luke had accepted the truth. Leia, on the other hand, spat that Vader killed her father when he destroyed Alderaan, and he must pay for his crimes. Vader said nothing he can ever do would make up for that, but he would like to offer something to at least start. And Vader pulled an Imperial holodisc from his hand that laid out all of the Empire's plans to stop the rebel attack. The plans detailed the ambush they will pull on the ground soldiers, attacking the shield generator, and also showed the formation for the Imperial fleet that would be waiting to trap the rebels when they launched the space attack on the Death Star. Leia skimmed it and considered thanking Vader, but instead just told Luke to do what he had to do. But he is not allowed to fight with the rebels, and she turned back to the camp, leaving Luke and Vader alone. Luke had so many questions for Vader, but first he asked, simply, why? And Vader told the truth, saying that ever since he watched his own son jump to his assumed death on Cloud City over joining him, a spark was ignited, and now that spark has turned into a flame of light, as a memory of Luke's mother came to him. Vader said it was the Force itself manifesting to show him the way. Luke silently muttered, Yoda? Wondering if he had something to do with it, and Vader chose to ignore this. He then told Luke they must confront the Emperor. He will be expecting them, but with the help of the rebels blowing up the battle station, they will be able to take him down together. Along with the Imperial schematics that he gave Leia, Vader also placed a method in the plans on how to defeat the Imperial ambush and surprise attack. And Leia was now showing the rebels here on Endor, while also transmitting to the rebel fleet, preparing for their jump to hyperspace in the coming hours. Admiral Akbar, naturally, asked where she got all of this, and Leia said it was on one of the stormtrooper bodies from the chase down that she and Luke were in, and R2 just decoded the password. She was lying, but that didn't matter right now. R2 chuckled a bit, just happy to be in on some secrecy. And so the rebellion analyzed these plans, putting together their new strategy. Luke and Vader would walk together back to the Imperial outpost, and once there, Vader would inform the Imperials that he has found this rebel spy and will be bringing him to the Emperor's throne room. Together they would board a shuttle as Luke was put into handcuffs, and they would fly up to the Death Star and into the Emperor's throne room, where he was sure everything was going according to plan. The Emperor would turn Luke to the dark side, the rebel ground assault would be stopped, and the rebel fleet would be caught in a trap. But Sidious didn't know that on the ground, as Leia and the ground rebels were ambushed at the shield generator, they were suddenly actually ready. As the Imperials and their AT-STs surrounded them, two of the AT-STs suddenly exploded. Deep in the trees, Han Solo and Chewbacca stole the AT-AT at the Imperial outpost, and they were pushing through the forest, guided by the Ewoks. Leia and the rebels ran as Han fired into the crowd of troopers, then fired directly into the shield generator. It exploded, and all of the surrounding Imperials went down in the explosion. Han and Chewie shared an excited hug, as Chewie lifted Han out of the port to celebrate, and Leia smiled up at him. In space, the rebel fleet emerged to take on the Death Star. Well, about half of the fleet. The other half was laying a trap on the Imperial trap, so when the Empire fleet emerged from hyperspace, they were immediately trapped as the other half of the rebels came in behind them. And the battle was suddenly heavily in favor of the rebels, as Lando charged into the core of the Death Star with a squad of X-Wings. And in the throne room, Sidious watched as his plans fell apart, and the Emperor closed his eyes, gathering his anger and his hatred into him. There was only one way the rebellion could have perfectly executed this counter-maneuver. He turned in his chair, walked to the stairs, and just blasted lightning into Vader and Luke before they could even react. Vader wanted to get close to Palpatine to kill him, but the Emperor had them now. But the lightning would only last a second, as outside the battle station, the bridge to the Executor command ship was destroyed, knocking out its navigation system, and it was sucked into the Death Star gravitational pull. It crashed hard into the Death Star, and inside, as Palpatine started blasting his lightning, the throne room shook violently. Vader was waiting for this. As Sidious stumbled, Vader grounded himself immediately, igniting both his and Luke's lightsabers. Vader threw the red blade at Sidious, and it stabbed through his chest. As the Emperor fell to the ground, Vader leapt high in the air, spinning the green blade around his back as he swung and cut the head off of the Emperor. He fell dead, and Vader helped Luke to his feet as the two of them moved as quickly as they could back to the hangar. Many Imperial troopers and security were reporting this, following Vader, but suddenly the Death Star shook much more violently. The Millennium Falcon just blew up the core of it. Vader and Luke got into their shuttle and took off, just as the entire battle station exploded. The Rebel Alliance cheered in victory, both in space with Lando and Akbar completing their assault, and on the ground with Leia, Han, Chewie, the droids, and the Ewoks. And in a single shuttle, Luke and Vader descended down to the forest floor together, where they talked about what is to come next. Vader said that with the Emperor gone, along with the second Death Star, A vacuum of power is going to open up. Names like Garrick Versio, Masameda, Ray Sloan, Brendel Hux, Gideon, or others will try and step up to restore the Empire. But Vader said that he can stop it. The rebellion was now a strong, united force that was defeating the Empire in battle after battle, but Vader could be a man on the inside. He also would tell Luke to go celebrate with his friends, and in time, they will reunite to help Luke take his next steps into rebuilding the Jedi Order. Luke accepted this, and he said goodbye to his father as he flew back to the remnants of the broken Empire, while Luke went and joined the celebration. Vader would fly up to space and board a ship, waiting for an elite unit called Inferno Squad, and Vader would say he escaped, but the Emperor did not. And so he would be taken back to Coruscant, where Vader would cement his place as the Emperor of the Galaxy, with full intent to bring it down upon itself. As he entered the Coruscant atmosphere, Vader saw the countless fireworks lighting up the night sky. Coruscant citizens were revolting, celebrating, breaking down barriers to fight troopers. They were tearing down statues of former Emperor Palpatine. Gunfire could be heard all around as the Empire tried to fight back, but it was futile. Vader smiled to himself as he landed in the palace before finding Mas Amedda in a full-blown panic. Amedda was relieved to see Vader, but Vader didn't care much for him. He never did. He choked the old man with 2 fingers before tossing him out to the citizens below. His stain on the galaxy was no longer needed, and Vader would settle in that he would become the new Emperor, forging a civil war within the Empire's own ranks. The next few months would see Luke, Leia, Han, and the Rebellion using their momentum to take the fight back to the Empire on Jakku, Sullust, Chandrila, and other major fights, as Emperor Vader was pretending to fight back. In reality, he was sabotaging the forces at nearly every major battle, until many Imperials decided Vader was unfit to lead. This would lead to an internal civil war, as loyalists to Vader got into conflict with Gallius Rax, a man mentored by Sidious himself, as the Empire began tearing itself apart, focusing on each other, while the Rebellion was able to win battle after battle even more. Before long, Coruscant had become a rather lawless land, with only the Imperial Security Bureau remaining to control it. The New Republic would begin establishing itself on Chandrila, and Coruscant would not be able to handle itself. The Imperial Civil War was in full effect, and Vader would disappear from it all, as the Imperial Palace, formerly the Jedi Temple, was destroyed in the final days of the Empire's desperate occupation of the planet. Many assume that Vader died in the explosion, and the Empire was more shattered than ever, essentially a dying corpse of what it once was. And with the Rebellion set to finish the job, Vader would travel to Ossus, where Luke Skywalker was waiting for him with a temple that was being built. Vader landed and looked at the temple, proud of his son for beginning this project, and a familiar voice spoke from behind Vader. It was Ahsoka, and she said she wasn't sure if Luke was actually telling the truth about him. Vader turned with complete surprise, and saw Ahsoka's face mixed with relief, but also a deep sadness. She was happy that Anakin came back, but she could never truly forgive Vader for what he did to the galaxy. The two of them would share a moment together, but when Luke arrived, she decided to leave and go out into the galaxy to find herself and possibly eventually find Ezra Bridger. When she was gone, Luke showed Vader around the area, including the temple, and also a secluded cave that Luke had some droids excavate and prepare for Vader to live in. It wasn't perfect, but it was better than Mustafar. Luke said that he had some help putting it together, as R2-D2 shyly rolled out of the cave, beeping with confusion and curiosity, as Vader removed the top part of his helmet and said hello once more to R2. The little droid beeped with excitement as Luke laughed. The next few months would be spent on Ossus, with Vader training his son in the Force, while the temple and the cave set up to help Vader survive. His Bacta-tank, repair droids, and other necessary parts to keep Vader alive were built in the cave, while every day Luke and Vader would travel through the mountains and the forests, as Vader trained Luke in the true Jedi arts, showing him various lightsaber forms, how to wield the Force without it wielding you. And Vader would tell stories of the Republic, the War, Yoda, Obi-Wan, the clones, Ahsoka, and so much more. Luke almost refused to believe that the old Jedi Yoda once battled Sidious and Dooku, flipping around, but Vader swore it was true. Months would be spent here, as the Rebellion became the New Republic, with Chancellor Mon Mothma leading the way, with Leia and Han soon having a child named Ben. No one in the galaxy, aside from Luke, R2, and Ahsoka, knew that Vader was alive and training with Luke on Ossus, and it would have to remain that way. If Vader wanted to survive, No one could know he was here, or he would be executed. Rightfully so, he thought. He constantly wished to see his daughter Leia, but he knew that was not possible. Bail and Brea Organa raised her so well, and Vader blew up her home while she watched. So Vader instead chose to love Leia by letting her be, and also by fighting off the Empire in the shadows, so it can never rise up against her. Vader and Luke would travel the galaxy together, as Luke sought to learn more about the Jedi, the Sith, the Force in general. They would travel to Ahch-To, Tython, Ilum, as Vader taught Luke about the Jedi. And they would also someday travel to Exegol, as Vader still had his Sith Wayfinder. On the Sith planet that Vader once visited after fighting Luke on Cloud City, they would find much more than Vader expected. A Sith fleet of Star Destroyers was still being put together by Sith loyalists. They were expecting Sidious to show up, but he never did, as Vader cut off his head before he could transfer his essence, so they were basically building a fleet for nothing. The Final Order fleet would end today, as Luke and Vader worked together, igniting their blades and moving through Exegol to fight through waves of Sith loyalists, eventually boarding a Final Order Star Destroyer and destroying its main weapon. The destroyer began to explode, and Vader and Luke would leave the planet as the entire fleet and all of the loyalists went up in flames. Luke and Vader would work in the shadows to fight off remnants of the Empire, stopping them from becoming more than just a spark trying to become a flame. And after a few years, the two of them would feel a call in the Force from someone Vader recognized. And over the years, Vader redesigned a TIE fighter to better fit his style, and also not look much like an Imperial ship. And he also changed his suit up a bit, keeping all of the life-preserving mechanisms, while changing the color scheme to blue and white to honor Rex. And together, they would take their ships to an Imperial capital ship belonging to Moff Gideon. They would board this ship and fight through waves of Death Trooper droids, cutting through them as Luke used his green blade and Vader used his purified white one. Together they would find the source of the call in the Force. It was Grogu, one of the only survivors from the Purge of the Temple, and he was with a Mandalorian who obviously had formed a connection with the child. Luke offered to take Grogu, but Vader said that Din can visit whenever he wants. No one knew this was Vader under the mask, and Luke was confused as he was taught about the dangers of attachment, but Vader decided that it was time for things to change in the Jedi Order. So Luke would take Grogu to be a student at the new temple, while allowing Din to visit. And over the years, the temple would grow, and Luke's Jedi Order would grow as Vader watched from the shadows. His life was now one of watching everything from a distance, as he would guide Luke on how to handle the darkness in any student, especially with Ben Solo, who harbored a darkness like his grandfather. Luke would use his father's teachings to become the true Grand Master of this new order, and when Vader was absolutely sure that Luke and Leia, as leaders of the New Republic and new Jedi Order, were set for success, Vader would remove his mask and his breathing respirator before putting himself to rest in the Bacta tank, where he would die in peace. It was now 15 years after the Battle of Endor, and Luke would find him here, but before Luke could even feel sad, the ghost of Anakin arrived to say he will always be with Luke. Decades would go by without darkness returning. The return of Thrawn never amounted to anything, as Luke and the New Republic were able to stop him before he could enact his plans, and the galaxy was safe from any Imperial remnants. As Luke was the Grand Master for many years, Han and Leia would watch from a distance as their son became a great Jedi Knight, and the New Republic would reign without Imperial remnants to get in the way. And folks, that is our story for today. I really wanted to take on Return of the Jedi. I've kind of been, I don't want to say caught, but just kind of, I don't want to say stuck, but I enjoy doing Revenge of the Sith and like Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones prequel videos, right? And I've done some on New Hope, Empire Strikes Back. But I was thinking a few days ago, and I was like, I haven't really done many Return of the Jedi videos, so this is an era that I definitely do want to explore. There's a lot of possibilities here. Just the throne room scene, has as many possibilities as the Windu Anakin Sidious scene, so maybe I'll explore more of those. Either way, let me know what type of videos you'd want to see from this era, or just in general, and I'll try to get to those. But yeah, really enjoyed this. Just, I know in Return of the Jedi, obviously the Rebellion wins, but I wanted to sort of do a retelling of the battle with the Rebellion, getting just an advantage on Sidious, and ultimately Vader being the one to kill Sidious, and surviving in the end. So, hope you guys enjoyed that. I really did. The idea of Vader training Luke on Ossus was fun to explore a bit, so yeah. And it is hard to handle Vader surviving just because he's the biggest criminal in the galaxy. He's a genocide. He's horrible. Like, didn't deserve to survive. Horrible dude. So it's hard to kind of do that. You just gotta really keep him to only Luke, R2, and Ahsoka knowing that he survived, and it worked from there. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.